All right, the worst kept secret in the world right now is that there was a blackout in Spain and Portugal. There's thousands of YouTubers, they're doing their own news takes, whatever. So take this as you will. So this is really my experience. I thought I'd run through it. I'm in the north of Portugal, and it just gives you a good heads up, a reality check of what really went on. So, just adds to the information pool. So the timeline of events at about 11 o'clock yesterday, I don't know the exact time, it was somewhere around then. I know I got a phone call from my wife at just after 11:30, so it wasn't too long before then anyway. And she was in Porto, and the power died. Then the phones were still working. We could text, message, we could use mobile data. That wasn't a problem. And then, as it turned into half an hour, into an hour, the phones really started to play up. You couldn't get messages weren't going through, and then gradually, phones weren't. You couldn't ring anyone, and then the mobile data just started to die. So it was all very weird the way it all played out. It was over a gradual time. It wasn't just that old click of the fingers and nothing worked. So it was, weirdly enough, an odd description is almost that day one of a zombie apocalypse movie type scenario where just things just die, and no one actually knew what was going on, because some people's internet worked for a little bit and die. And it was just really weird blocks of time of how things would work. So initially, from the phones and the mobile data, it would turn off every half an hour or so, come back on for 5 minutes, and then it would cycle like that for a little bit, and then it would cycle extended out to like an hour, at 2 hours, and then that last block, I think, probably went close to 4 hours where there was just no internet, no nothing, couldn't get anything through, no phone calls, no nothing. So it did strike me as odd, personally. It was like someone was communicating with someone else using the network, and then they'd switch it off. I don't know why else something like that would turn on and off conveniently like that. I don't know. So anyway, that was just how it kind of played out for the afternoon. Now, what kind of happened was everyone kind of just, a lot of people just took it in their stride. There was gradual build up during the day of people being sent home from work because, work that relies on computer systems and electricity is going to be useless. Whereas if you're working at an outdoor job, like construction, I guess you were out of luck, you just had to keep working. But so roads gradually began to clog very early in the day. Roads were backed up as people were picking their kids up from school and heading home. Now, I kind of just rode it out too. There wasn't a lot to do. Just talked to the neighbour and just watched a little bit of the road go past. Now, I heard stories as the day went on that some people were panicking and, had run to the shops for toilet paper and water, and fights were breaking out in those stores. Now, I don't know how truthful that is, but again, it's just all comes, take it with a grain of sand, all's well that ends well. So, as I walked to work, I just noticed small things like the cafes, everything was still open. They were just operating as best they could. No heated up food or anything, no coffees, but a lot of people were still enjoying the cold beers out the fridge, and out the tap as well. So they still remain cold enough. So that all worked well. A lot of people just pretty relaxed, enjoying their stuff on the sidewalks. I was going to film, but obviously there comes a point where you've got to, make decisions about your battery power. So it's not unreasonable to assume that, okay, if there's multiple countries affected by this could be something that could take a couple of days to come back. So if that's the case, we really needed to conserve power. So I used my laptop to charge my phone, and I had about 50% power at the end of it by the time I went to work. And after trying to get access to the internet and make phone calls, and it drains the power. So sacrifices had to be made. So I didn't make any videos of the atmosphere around the place. So generally, everyone was remaining calm. Everyone was just mingling with their neighbours, as odd, sitting out in parks and leaning over their balconies, talking to each other. So it was a good social atmosphere, really. So there was kind of a positive benefit. Got people out of their houses. Never saw as many people walking their dogs as I did yesterday on my way home from work. So, and it was all relatively peaceful. Had a salad for dinner. Didn't really mind too much. A few people were barbecuing on their balconies. So it was a good social atmosphere. So, and I guess what happened in terms of people panicking and the rumour mill flying is, well, we were effectively cut off from the rest of the world. So with no phones, no emergency phone calls could go through. There was no, I think emergency phone calls could be used on the system. I think that operates on a different system. I'm no expert, don't hold me to that. But there was, where was I going? So we were cut off from the rest of the world. So with no internet, no phone calls, no electricity, people had no idea what was going on. And it can really, I guess, play with your psyche, because you start thinking, well, obviously, they're not using electricity, that is fine. But generally, if without internet and without being able to make your phone calls, then you start wondering, well, how serious is this? What happens if there's an emergency? And if it carries on for days, like, where am I going to get petrol from? What's my water situation going to be like? Is the water going to be switched off here soon? So there were small things like that start to play in your mind. But the reality of the situation was that it lasted about 10 hours, the entire blackout. So for people to get to the stage of panic buying is kind of disappointing, because what does that achieve now? And I was tempted to go to the supermarket today just to see what potentially happened. But I thought, the supermarkets have got enough to deal with. There's probably people still panic buying now, which they're trying to stock up for in case the blackout reoccurs in the next day or so. And the explanations we've got have just been terribly poor. So there really is no trust that the system won't fail again, I guess, because I just don't understand it. As I said, I'm not an expert, and I think it's got a few people scratching their heads. How could an entire two countries' power networks go down that easily? And why is it really connected to just this one place that can shut off the entire country? So I don't know. I'm not into conspiracy theories, so I'm not going to really bother trying to think that anything bad was going on. It could very well be legit what they said. They just don't really know how to fix it. But it came on relatively easy, and yeah, the only delay that we had specifically was so we had the phones come back on, but it took a while for regular household data to come back. But phone internet would work. So other than that, I mean, there really wasn't much more to it, and I just wish I probably did film a little bit because it was a good atmosphere to film. But you know, it was good to not to have that break from technology because magically everyone socialized, everyone was out enjoying themselves. There was no TVs. There was very minimal noise. Like there was just a few cars that would go past every now and then, but aside from that, there was nothing. So it was just a very peaceful atmosphere. So that's really all I got to say. I've rabbited on for too long. I know people in other areas that had a lot more fun situations, I should say. I heard stories of, people being stuck in the metro in Lisbon and Porto. I don't think that would have been quite as fun as it's made out to be. Then you had, people probably being stuck in lifts for a long time. I know the electric doors of many businesses have that automatic lock, and I think they were all tripped and with the blackout, and so yeah, there was a few people stuck indoors and couldn't get out for a while. So yeah, there was lots of adventures for people to have yesterday, but we're all good. All the generators worked. So yeah, all right, I'll leave it there. If you have any questions or comments of your own, I'd like to hear others' experiences. Please jump on, voice what you experienced. All right, have a great one. I will catch you next time.